Joint session between the county council and the commissioners. Mr. Stewart, President Stewart, is running a little bit late tonight. He will be here, and as Vice President, I'll go ahead and call the commissioners out of recess and turning it over to Mr. Middlesworth, President Middlesworth.
Yeah, good evening and welcome to this joint session. At this time, I'll call the Grant County Council to order. And tonight, the pledge and prayer. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Wright.
Okay, we'll have the prayer led by Mr. Bardsley and pledge allegiance by Mr. Scott.
Bow in an attitude of prayer. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight, we're grateful for life, for liberty, and for the land that we live in. Thank you so much. As the world is in chaos, we recognize the freedoms we have, and we don't want to take them for granted. Continue to guide and direct those who are directing the nation. Give wisdom there, and at every level, we ask for your presence. Tonight, we ask for wisdom as we listen. Give us good hearing, understanding, and continue to move the county forward. We pray it in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. On our roll call, we'll go ahead and call our roll real quick, right? And so, let's see here. Who would, there's Angie.
Hello. Just say your name.
Yes.
Okay. Bardsley.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Stewart. Andy Lake.
And we do have a quorum. All right.
If you would, go ahead and call the roll for the county council, please.
Scott.
Here.
Connor.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Perez.
I haven't heard any communication from Mr. Perez.
Poling. Here. Lemming.
Here.
Middlesworth.
Here. And we have a quorum as well. Go ahead, Mr. Wright.
Yes. So under the agenda tonight, we will be discussing the Baird Agreement discussion, ARPA project discussion, buildings discussion, and we'll just kind of go through that. Those are the three main topics, and each one of them's got some subtopics to it. So under the first one would be the Baird Agreement discussion, and Mr. Middlesworth.
Yes, I believe Mr. Glickfield have spoke to the Beard representatives this evening.
That's correct.
They'll be here to make a little presentation, I believe.
That's correct.
If you would, just go ahead and come to the podium. You know they're gonna be here this evening?
Is he not here? He told me he thought he would be here, so
Okay, well, you just want to table that till later then?
sure.
Is he online by any chance, Shane?
I don't think so. You don't think so?
David, can you see those names on TV?
Bob?
Yeah, I don't think I see him on there. Yeah.
I think we'll just go ahead and move to item 2, Mr. Wright.
Okay. We've been talking about the ARPA project discussion on all the different things that's been requested for the dollars. And first on the agenda is Ms. Sinowal 1812 presentation. Right over there at the podium, please. Thank you. State your name and the organization.
Yeah, just want to get right into it.
Now.
Hello, my name is Anthony Decker. I'm the president of the Mrs. Sinowal Battlefield Society, a non-for-profit organization. 100% volunteer ran and hosts the country's largest War of 1812 reenactment known as Mrs. Sinowal 1812, catering to 30,000 visitors on average over the course of 3 days, including 7,000 field trip students on Friday, 2,500 living historians, including reenactors from all over the globe, including Canada, California, Georgia, and even England, and more. I've been president of the organization for nearly 10 years, and within that 10 years, we have overcome the emerald ash borer that destroyed nearly all the woods on our former ground. We've been 42 foot underwater in back-to-back flood years, and overcame the COVID shutdown crisis, all of which we have overcome with strength and ingenuity. But now we have a new mission to complete, and that is to find a new home. For the first time in 35 years, we have faced the reality that our old grounds are not conducive to our mission as the country's premier living history event, nor our sustainability as an organization, all due to the many restraints that come with having to lease the land from the Department of Natural Resources. We have always been self-sufficient and have always rolled our own profits into our operating budget. But now, for the first time since 1988, we ask our community for financial support. We aspire not only to overcome finding a new permanent home, one in which we own, but also become more than just a 3-day weekend in October and become a true Grant County tourist attraction, similar to that of Conner Prairie in Noblesville, Otayaway Park in Strawtown, and the historic fort in Fort Wayne. Opening accessibility to the public for historical experiences year-round, building new events throughout all the seasons. We're very, very close to executing a deal to permanently own land and to outfit this land with the infrastructure that we'll need to restore not only the event, but also build the platform for our future goals. We know that it will take work and money. Not only the cost of the land, but there will be excavation costs, drilling of a well, installing water hydrants, fencing, so much more. We know that the community desires Mississinawa 1812 to return, but it also deserves our event, as it is a major fundraising opportunity for the many local churches, clubs, non-for-profit groups who are already our established food vendors at the event. Yes, Mississinawa 1812 event and experience will be restored. It's been referred to as the centerpiece of autumn, and we take that seriously. And with it, Grant County's very own living history park. With your support, we can accomplish this at a speed that I know that our volunteers can match and conquer one more mission for the history books. So thank you for your consideration, everyone in the room.
Any questions from council members or
Where you
commissioners?
plan on building this?
Well, we've are hot on some land in Grant County, and between Marion and Gas City. Consider, we've reviewed a lot of land potentials.
30 to 50 acres.
What's that?
30 to 50 acres, right?
That's what we need at a minimum.
Between Marion and Gas City, where are you talking about?
Well, we're keeping that private right now because it's not a closed deal or anything. We don't want even our own members going out there and trespassing or anything like that.
And for the public, your request is for the $2.5 million.
You got it.
That's ARPA funds.
Yep.
Which would go towards what?
Land ownership and all the costs associated with building the infrastructure. Excavating, well, septic, fencing, setting up an environment conducive to good security, ingress, egress, all that good stuff. We got to rebuild the new home. We also aspire to build permanent structures. Part of our sustainability platform that we know that if we had, we've always been a 3-day pop-up. So everything we do is over the course of 10 days. We go up, we set it all up, and we put it all away in 10 days. And it's crazy. So we can build permanent structures, not only to assist our volunteer group, but also provide that experience that the public can access, take walks with their family, their dogs, and whether we're there as reenactors or not, take a walk and learn about the history of Grant County, specific to War of 1812.
So by giving this money, would Grant County own the land or would the society?
Mississinawa Battlefield Society Incorporated,
That you want us to pay for it?
help with. Yeah.
So what's the plan if you don't get all of it?
Well, we're gonna keep on moving forward. All the funds or all the land? I'm sorry. Funds, yeah. I mean, we've got fundraiser campaigns set up. We're approaching local businesses for support in exchange for advertising, all that good stuff. So we have a lot of campaign and movement, so.
Is this the total cost of 2.5 million, or how much are you totally putting in? Just roundabout, we're not gonna hold it to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it could definitely exceed the 2.5. I mean, we will, whatever we get is what we're gonna use and invest into, so.
Is there matching grants to any of it? Or is there a reason to put some of this money into a safe harbor match of some sort where you can?
Yeah, we've been we've always kind of closed ourselves in a box way out in the county. We want to become more community accessible. And like I said, we've always just been self-sufficient. We've not gotten the world of grants and all that stuff. And that's shame on us. We've reached out to Grant County Visitors Bureau. We've started a lot of conversations in a lot of different aspects.
I just mean with the 501c, that gives you a lot of opportunities
Oh,
to
yeah.
get people that,
And we know we haven't taken advantage of all those opportunities. But now we're in a position where we have to start doing so.
so I mean, you got people within the community that have required minimum distributions that would love to just donate some money and not pay tax on it.
Yeah, and we're gonna be going down that road too. So anything and everything is appreciated, truly. As a full project, we could see this amount making it possible. But again, whatever the commissioners and the council is willing to assist with, we'd happily take it. And we're on a mission. We don't want to go anywhere. A lot of the community thought that we were done, and that's not the case. We're just looking for a new home.
But you canceled for this year.
Canceled for this year. Yep, you got it. Yeah, we didn't want to risk the integrity of our event due to some pressures that were being faced on us,
Okay.
due to being on DNR land.
The information in this last page, is this why you are moving? Are there concerns or issues on our part that needs to be addressed with the information from this page?
No, I mean, that's definitely a lot of the reason of why we're moving. We've outgrown that space, and we've outgrown the restraints that we can't, our ticket booths, just as an example, we have to literally pick those up and take them, put them in place, and then pack them away. We cannot have permanent structures on that site. It floods all the time. It's just so many things. Furthermore, the political pressure that was being placed upon us from the state level by another group, we did not want to get involved with. So we made the decision proactively to find a new place that we as a independent source of history can do our job and not be influenced by outsiders.
So a question I have
Yeah.
is, with that political influence that you're talking about and things, addressing that, because I know there's certain regulations that is trying to be put into place to control what you do.
Yeah.
What do you see that looking like for your event?
Well, this is why we want to go to privately owned land, so where we can govern ourselves. We don't want the risk of the landlord feeling those pressures, placing them on us. We know that this is a general theme across the United States. We've seen it deteriorate with history events just like us and states like Virginia and New England and so many other areas. And we are trying to provide ourselves a home that we can control our content and who we allow to be a part of our event. There was a certain group that did not want us to allow our founders to be involved with our event anymore. And we won't stand for that.
So the $2.5 million that you're requesting, I chiming in with Mr. Scott here, where does it get us? What's the scope? Is this a $5 million project, $10 million project?
Yeah, well, we are still obviously in the very early stages. The news just came out 2 months ago of we had to make to move. So there is still so much strategic planning happening right now. Definitely $5 to $10 million project at the end of it all. I mean, like I said, we would love to see historical buildings, whether they be log cabin buildings, colonial style buildings that house our interpretive museum. Again, something that we can do to become more than the 3-day event. We aspire to be like a Conner Prairie-like experience. Now, could we ever become to that full magnitude? Absolutely. Will it be next year or the next 5 years? No. Could the next generation of our organization get us there? Yes, absolutely. And this is the foundation that'll get us there. So.
Any other questions?
If we were to obligate any funds toward your mission, would you allow us to review your financials?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the only question.
Anyone else? Let me preface this, we're not taking action tonight, we're listening.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
You know, that way all of us can hear what you have to bring as well as the other ones that's going to be in front of us tonight. And, but we'll definitely consider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. All right, next up is Mayor Morrell's presentation.
How's everybody doing? It's such an honor to be here before the commission and the council. Thank you for this opportunity. My presentation is long, it's simple. I think we're at a point where we must accept that enough is enough. The city of Marion has been plagued for my whole 30 years of life with blight. From broken sidewalks to 7-foot tall grass to trees in the right-of-ways that are public safety issues to the most obvious of buildings that need to be torn down that's hindering our growth from new citizens and new businesses, and also encouraging old citizens and old businesses to want to relocate. So this ask today is a partnership between the city of Marion and the county. The ask is for you all to match us for the $1 million that we have just invested, I think it was last week. It was another $1 million, so we can be more aggressive in pursuing one of the top things that's hindering our city from growing. In addition to this match, this puts us in a better application, more attractive to the state funds that we're going to be applying for from the READY 2.0 Blight Elimination Grant in combination with Lilly and the state of Indiana. So if we can show a partnership from the city and the county, and it's almost a slam dunk for the state to want to participate as well. So what this is going towards is more than anything a partnership in efforts to clean up the city that we all so much frequent. Now, any other questions I would love to answer.
Questions from the body?
Mayor, I know you're on a mission to get rid of blight, and I appreciate that. I think you're on the right step. A lot of times, everyone wants to talk about downtown Marion, and obviously there's some dilapidated buildings and whatever. Would there be a possibility of using the city's dollars to fund any of the blight that occurs downtown?
Yes,
specifically?
Are you thinking from more of a redevelopment position or?
Yeah, for, whether it's the sidewalks around the courthouse or anything that would help the counties,
Oh, 100%. So one thing we just passed, and we would love to help offset some of the costs from this, is we're going to replace all of the bricks that everyone knows that's a terrible decision the first time, but it looks even worse now. So we just passed money to replace that, which directly affects all the county's buildings. So we're doing things downtown that directly affect your assets, but we also want to spread it around to the rest of the city as well.
So you have identified properties that you would target at this point?
Yes, I've been working with our building commissioner overtime, and we have identified 50 properties that are going right now to the Board of Works for their process to be approved. As soon as we get these funds released in combination with ours, then they're going to start coming down.
Is there a plan of what to do with those properties once they are cleaned up, or will they just maintain an empty lot until?
Yeah, so it's twofold. So one, for the ones that the city owns, we will tear those down and then put them out for sale for hopefully redevelopment. Now the ones that we don't own, this question comes up a lot, what happens to those properties? So we place a lien on those properties in hopes to collect the money back one day.
What happens if you don't get the $1 million?
We're gonna spend the $1 million we already got and keep on going, This is something that has to get done no matter what. I think it makes us more attractive and shows a sense of unity that we haven't had in a long time. We can come and do this together.
So what happens when you look at your overall numbers, to Mr. Scott's point, you have obviously done some analysis to say, I got 1.5 or more. Is that what you've come up with in a conclusion of saying, it's gonna cost the city and us at least 1.5 to tear down and clean up this area?
Yeah, so it all ranges, right? So we tore down a larger building in church that was $105,000, but you're tearing down some of the single family homes, you're looking between $5,000 to $10,000. So it's a range. What this money is going to do is allow us to be aggressive. And then Mr. Poling, Councilman Poling, you can spend way more than $2 million tearing down the stuff that needs to be removed in the city of Marion. So this is just going to be actually a seed into hopefully what a long-term plan to be able to address an issue that's been lingering forever. And again, the state has released these funds that we can apply to then beef up the partnership at a local level from the state level.
So how long do you think that takes? A year, 5 years?
I think this $2 million, we can spend this in a year. Now, the rest of the...
Well, I mean, I get you can spend it, but what can you get done?
I mean, to actually tear all the things? Yeah, so we're going to subcontract this out to our internal people and then also put bids out throughout the other contractors so we can accelerate the process.
So where did you get the figure 5,000 to 10,000 to tear down a house?
That's the last price we paid.
But you guys tore it down, correct?
No, this was what we contracted out to. I can't remember, it was either Days or Bragg's. They tore down the house, yeah.
Nobody can compete with Dave's. They got their own zone. True or false?
I mean, I don't know how they run that business part of their model, but if that's true, then
drive with me.
Yeah, if that's true, that's fine.
But you can't tear a house down for 5,000 or 10,000. You have more than that, don't you? If you haul it. Well, I mean, I'm just being honest, man. Me and Shane just tore one down, what, 2 months ago? We had 7,000 in dumpsters.
Good. Well, I can show you our recent bill towards that, and that's what it was for a house. Now, it's the differentiates for the type of structure we're dealing with.
Well, it depends on how big the house is and how much trash is in it and all that. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah, it's constant variables, and I'm glad you said that because then you can speak to how important this is that we need to get this done.
As long as we're getting our bang for our buck.
100%. Yep.
Mayor, how many houses do you have currently that's like court ordered tear down?
25 that are approved, and then we just took another 50 to the Board of Works to go through that process.
And how long does that take?
The Board of Works process?
Go through the Board of Works and go to court.
Yeah, so I don't want to misspeak on the process, but I know when the Board of Works approves it, we then have to send the property owner a letter. And then they have, I think, 15 days to respond. So this is between 30 to 45 days before we can actually act on the additional 50.
So you got 30 to 45 days for each one?
Well, we dumping them all at the same time to the Board of Works, so it'd be 30 to 45 days total for those additional.
For the whole thing?
Yeah, but there's another thing that our building commissioner can enact, which is the emergency tear down fund. So if they are of obvious danger to society, we can go ahead and he can enact, we're tearing this down, and we'll just send the bill off to whoever it is and hope that they okay. So, yeah.
So the $2 million would go towards affected properties that you have identified?
Yes, and more. Yeah.
Mayor, the houses currently that have the X on them that has been put up by code enforcement, are those the ones that are targeted right now?
Yes, those have already, if they have an X on them, they usually have already been approved. They're just waiting on the list either for money or the contractors to be able to get to them.
Okay. And over the past few administrations, we have had a process where we give parcels to the municipality. Do you know how many, and this is, I know it's a curveball, but do you know how many of those parcels you still have, and are any of them, some of those blighted?
Yeah, I do. So we actually have 300 of those. And it ended up being more, probably so. But we have 300 of those. We just hired someone specifically dedicated towards getting those back on the tax roll. So there's a couple ways we're going to attack that. One, most of those properties are like 0.2 acres or under, and the goal is going to be to get those to the adjacent property owners so they can get back on the tax roll. We have about 10 to 15 of them that are 2 acres and up that are more attractive to developers to come and do something. So that's the kind of the plan around that.
How many of those spaces are green space that Mayor Seabold made green spaces? Because I know people that had to go to federal court to buy that property, and the federal judge had to release it.
Hey, I can't speak on the exact percentage of that, but we do have, it's a decent amount.
Any other questions? One thing to just kind of put on your radar, Mayor, if something would come to fruition out of this, it's not necessarily blight, but it is an issue with the fiberglass poles around the courthouse. where they are in bad, they way outlived their life. Could that be worked into this project as well? That would be something that the county would be interested in, I think, to kind of spruce up what it looks like around that courthouse. Because honestly, they're in bad shape. And I know that from the walkway of lights and what we've tried to do. We won't attach anything to them because we're afraid they're going to come down on a car or somebody. If we would attach something to them with ice load and things like that, that would be on the wire.
Who do they belong to? The county or the city?
City.
Oh, really? Ours? So we can technically do what we want to do?
That answers that question.
That's my understanding, Mayor.
Okay.
That's my understanding. So we brought it to a former mayor's attention and things like that, and just, if you want to get with I&M, they'll tell you.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is the Marion's responsibility with those lights.
Right.
Okay. I think they were the original people who paid for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Right,
Any
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Okay, moving on to Trustee Kane's presentation on the IOOF Estates of Serenity Cemetery.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I also have some pictures that are going to be running while I'm speaking. They're going to be playing. There's about 6.5 minutes of pictures. They're not. It is of the cemetery. They're just most recent pictures as of July 2nd. So I'm not talking about a cemetery that is being taken care of. I'm talking about a cemetery that is in disrepair. In these pictures, you'll see flowers besides the headstones of people that want to give notice to their loved ones that are buried, and then they're standing in weeds that are above their knees. This is sad. This is not respectful. There's headstones leaning over. In fact, one is in that picture right now. There's mausoleums that are falling down. At the end of the 6 minutes, you'll see a couple who are out there mowing their own family's plots with a push mower that they have to lift up and put into an SUV. This is not right. It should not be. How many of you knew that there is a vice president mausoleum out at the cemetery? He was the 28th vice president. His name was Thomas R. Marshall. He was in the mausoleum initially, and then 3 years after his death, he was moved to Crown Hill in Indianapolis. The mausoleum was one that you just saw in the picture where it's in disrepair, falling apart. That's a vice president of the United States. We have two U.S. congressmen, Albert Hall, George Washington Steele, buried in the cemetery. There's one family in my research that has 48 first, second, and third generations buried in the cemetery. I took a phone call in my office some time ago from a young man who's been working 3 years to get his date of his grandmother's death on his headstone. That's not right. Saturday, as my husband and I, we go out there and we mow around 250 headstones. We weed eat it, we take care of it. We talked to two sisters, one from New York, one from South Carolina. They were bringing their mother out there so that she could pay homage to her loved ones. But they also, their mother cannot physically take care of the headstones any longer. They were out there with small weed clippers because their weed eater broke, and they were bending over and cutting the weeds around the headstones. Really? How many of us have loved ones in a cemetery that we don't have to worry about the care of it, and it's already taken care of? But how many of us in this room have loved ones in the cemetery? So I gave you the presentation, and I'll go through it. And I started out with a challenge. Picture yourself in the middle of this large cemetery. Imagine the headstones and every life it represents. The countless years symbolized on the ground, from Civil War soldiers to Colonel John Lewis McCollum, who built the Marion National Bank. They deserve more respect. So the history was in December of 1825, John Ballinger purchased Section 8, built a log house on this property. The Society of Friends of Mississinewa Church also held services in this cabin, which was adjoining the cemetery named Friends Cemetery, the first cemetery in the county. John Ballinger's was the second person buried in it, with his son-in-law being the first person buried. In 1859, IWOF purchased the cemetery and opened it to all denominations and persons. Currently, it is owned by Marion Cemetery Corporation under Neil and Brian Jeffrey. Neil Jeffrey is now gone. Brian is now managing it. They bought 5 parcels for $1 each in the sheriff's auction in 2000. They managed it from 2001 to 21 when Neil passed away. They had a stepfather who gave him $65,000 a year up until he passed away 6 years ago. The cemetery has gradually declined since 2015, and we have seen an exaggerated decline since that time. The good news for you guys tonight is I am now only asking $375,000 and not $500,000. I'm asking this because it just came to our attention just at 3 o'clock today that the Marion Cemetery Corporation was dissolved by the Secretary of State in June of 2023 for lack of reporting the proper paperwork and financials. So Craig Persinger spoke with me today, and he is going to represent Brian Jeffrey to work on the reinstating of the corporation. And he also informed Brian Jeffrey that his asking price of $200,000, which was in this request to you, was not going to happen. And so I took that down to $75,000. Now the other $300,000 is I have some quotes on initial lawn care to bring that property to where it should be, hopefully quickly. It doesn't include the removal of trees and that, but it will be the first mowing and the weeding. It's going to cost $100,000. I've got 3 lawn services that have given me the bid to bring it up to that. But I also have in your packet the quotes at how much it takes a year. So I have 3 quotes of how much it would take a year. The 2 quotes are in your packet. I just got a verbal quote from Ron's Lawn Care. They estimated $227,000 for a year. I have one that's in there for $137,000 and then one for $100,000. Then the request is $100,000 for maybe expenses of taking down fallen buildings, the semi-trailer that's hidden within the trees, dead trees, large weeds, brush, trash. The trash is taller than my SUV, and it's probably a half a city long block, and it's wide. And the additional weed control. Then in that quote is $100,000 to repair the smaller mausoleum, Vice President Marshall, the office building, remodel, and headstone cleaning. Why should you say yes? These are the challenges that I give to you. Picture a Civil War soldier dressed in full uniform standing beside their stone. What would you tell them about their horrendous condition? There are 74 Civil War soldiers, 2 brothers. One who was on the Marion City Council from 1905 to 1907, and 3 years on the Marion Park Board of Park Commissions. There is Colonel Oliver Carey. He was in the first company to leave the county, and he was in the last one to return. Before the war, he owned and operated stagecoach for passengers and freight between Marion and Anderson. Picture yourself standing beside their stones as parents. Explain why the grounds look so sad as they look across the acres of weeds and dead trees, all uncared for. Like the Emily Cox and her husband Cephas Crockett, whose son was Private Wilbur Crockett. He enlisted in 1862 to the 19th Marine Infantry Company at the age of 18. He was severely wounded and died of infections and buried in Arlington. Picture privates, soldiers, sergeants, corporals who lost their lives due to injury and illness to Spain while serving World War I, standing beside their stones. What do you say about the disrespect for their service as they see the lack of care of the cemetery? And how do you explain the lack of care to prominent businessmen who's in Marion, who invested millions in the city? And what do you say if you will not support an entity asking for the amount that I'm asking for to care for their plots and burial? Colonel John Lewis McCullough was a pioneer in glass manufacturing banking. He came to Marion in 1888. He organized and became treasurer and president of Marion Fruit Jar and Bottle Company. Later establishing plants in Converse and Fairmont as well as Kansas. 1904, he ranked second largest in the U.S. after selling the Bell to Bell Brothers Corporation in 1860 and selling 100 wells. He and his father-in-law, Adam Wolf, established a private bank in 1862 located on the 4th and Adams, where it remained until 1885. Then he purchased the corner of 4th and Washington and erected a 7-story bank and office building where he was president until his death. That is Ridley Tower as of today. George F. Bell III of Bell Firebird, the president of Marion City Bus Line. He married married the daughter of Colonel John McCullough. He was the chairman of Bell Fiber, Marion National Corporation, Marion Stove Company, and Marion National Bank. George was also president of Rutner Electric Company and Bell Building Incorporated. Then you have a governor who lobbied to build the veteran home in Marion. That's why you need to say yes, for the respect of all of these. So I also gave you some additional documents that I pulled together on some information on Marion Cemetery Corporation. In October 23, there were 2 complaints filed, 2 citizens' complaints filed against the corporation. So in January of 24, there was a proposed settlement, and I gave that information to you. You'll see it in Exhibit A, where it said that it was found large brush piles remain on the grounds, dead fallen trees remain on the grounds, area cemetery grounds have not been mowed, monuments have not been restored or straightened. And they failed to give a fiscal report from 2018, 19, 20, and 21, and 22. As of today, I spoke with the director of the state board for funeral homes and cemeteries, and he still has not complied with the requirement of submitting his his reports. So as of February 15th, his license is on an indefinite probation. I've also spoken with, I had Dr. Reyes, who is the city's grant writer. He went out to the cemetery with me. We spent about an hour driving around the cemetery. He is going to look into grants, to be able to get grants, because in hiring this lawn care service for the year, I will increase the employment by 7 people. And so based on that and the history of the cemetery and the lack of care, he feels pretty confident in being able to pursue grants for me. I've also spoken with our state representative, Lori Goss-Rees, and are you ready? Yeah. And I'll let Lori come up and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I know you have many challenging issues that come before you. This evening you heard from Deb Kane, Township Trustee. I approached Deb about 6 weeks ago. I was at the IOOF Cemetery taking care of my dad's grave, and in that 45 minutes that I was out there, 3 strangers came up to me and asked if anything could be done. And so I knew that day that this was an issue that I had to take on. And so I approached Deb and was very pleased to know that she was already working on this issue. So I just want to share with you that I reached out to Todd Rokita's office on June 19th. Our Attorney General sent them photos of the mausoleum. He asked his legislative director, Erin Tuttle, to start working on the matter, and she has done so very diligently. I'd like to read you an email from her, and it says, at this point, the township or another interested person could file a complaint with our office for failing to reset monuments and mow the lawn as required under IC 23-14-78-4. And the board would have to make a determination as to whether he is in violation of the law as well as his order to correct. Perhaps the fear of future civil penalties and enforcement by the Attorney General or prosecutor for violating the terms of his order to correct could persuade the owner to allow the township to take over the cemetery under IC 23-14-78-4. It is possible that eminent domain could be used, but we would need more facts to see how and if it could be applied to this cemetery. I also spoke with David Borderoff from AIC. He told me to tell you all hello, and he is suggesting that we reach out to Casey Miller, who runs a Catholic cemetery in Fort Wayne. I have Casey's number. I got that today. And so more than happy to help in any way that we can, but clearly our people deserve better. Those that have passed away and those that are there trying to take care of their loved ones' graves. One of the people that, one lady that talked to me that day said, you know, I just feel so sad for the people who have passed away who has no one living here to take care of that. So I appreciate your time, happy to answer any questions you may have, but when I text Todd Rokita, his response back was that he was very willing to help and found it to be, I think, disgusting was the word. So thank you for your time and attention.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a quick synopsis of historically how are cemeteries funded?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have lots of
In other words,
notes.
how did we get to this point? I know some of the history of IOOF, and by the way, I have more family buried out there than, including my brother, than I can shake a stick at. So,
Yeah, so when I spoke with Erin Tuttle, and I took a lot of notes, she just said to share that the laws are very complicated. This section of the law is very complicated, and that certain things that are applicable to some cemeteries aren't applicable to others based on whether they're privately owned. You know, if he's licensed, so we went down this whole chain of questions. And so there is a former student of mine that about 3 years ago happened to just be in my class and said, Lord, I saw your dad's grave today. I took care of it. Like, how would she even know? And so this was a good 3 years ago, maybe 4. And so she really spent a lot of time with the current owner. She really thought she could influence some things. So she sent me quite a bit of information about this license being revoked. And there's just a lot, I mean, a lot that the code says that applies to some cemeteries, not others. My understanding from both people I talked to is that if someone files a complaint, that will start this process. I mean, I can read you some things that they said to me. I just can't answer that question because it's very complicated.
Well, you know how we got here, right?
But I know
30 years ago.
Right, I can't remember the guy's name, but we had the bad accident.
He took 6
Right.
money.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I mean, I'm thinking, when I was a kid, and I'm 63, so we're talking back in the 60s,
Yeah.
it was in fair condition
Yeah.
back then. But when it was in its heyday, what was funding IOOF so that it attracted people to buy lots and believe that their loved ones were going to be cared for decades, hundreds of years, whatever they expect?
So there is a perpetual fund that is funded by the ongoing maintenance that we all pay after we put a loved one in there. Also, the funerals and the burials. That goes in that fund. And then just keeps building. Unfortunately, as you indicated, Ms. Walling, that many years ago, that fund was embezzled from. So that fund is now down below the manageable point. And at this time, I've not, because he's not submitted any reports, I cannot get the reports of where that perpetual fund is. In speaking with Brian Jeffrey myself, and I've been out there multiple times and talked with him, I got numerous different amounts that it's at. And so in speaking with Craig Persinger today, he indicated that it probably is not where Brian stated today. And so the interest, you can only pull a certain percentage of interest depending on the size of the fund each year, well, even each month if it's going to payroll. But each year you only have a certain amount that you can pull from that funding.
Well, I've been dealing with Brian for about 3 years. I don't know if you know this or not, but a couple weeks ago I donated him a lawnmower. Okay? And my family's been buried out there since 1700s. Okay? This is a non-profit, correct?
Yes.
Well, it's privately owned, isn't it?
Private. Well,
Privately
it's under
owned.
Marion Cemetery Corporation.
But it's a non-profit. That's what I was.
I'd like to have Marty Parker come on up and speak.
No, it's privately owned. So there's a significant difference in the rules for operating. That's one of the things Ms. Goss-Reeves was discussing is when the government operates, cemeteries got different rules from a private corporation. And so there's an interplay in acquiring it. But clearly this is one of the core functions of government is to make sure that people have a respectful place to be laid when they pass. And so there are a number of ways that the Indiana law allows for the township trustees to operate these and acquire them, and including setting up funds and levying taxes if necessary.
Well, have you looked at the numbers of how many people they buried in the last 3 years?
It is, I have not, I know it's significantly dropped.
It was 3 years ago, roughly right around 200. Last year was 167. This year, they've done only 37. And the reason I'm told this, and I've talked to some other cemetery people, not these guys, but other people, is because money's so tight now, people burn them, then they can't bury them, put them in the ground, right?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
No, I mean, not, some people can, is what I'm saying, is what they've told me. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, guys. You're wanting us to eat this, you want us to pay for this, the taxpayer, right? Now, wait a minute. I just buried my brother out there 2 weeks ago, okay? So I paid pretty big money out there, okay? You know how many times the citizens of this town, of this county, went out there voluntarily, cleaned this place up and caught them up? How many times?
Did they really catch him up?
Yes, I got 3 guys going out there.
Because 2 weeks later,
I was there.
2 weeks later is right back where it was.
Oh, well.
That's the problem, because Mr. Brian Jeffrey is the only one out there. He's never hired for additional help, and he doesn't have the money to do it. And that is one of the state statutes in the ability of the township to take it, is that is because there's not funding for care.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if this keeps going as a trend, and people don't bury people, how's it gonna pay for itself, I guess? Or you're just gonna want the taxpayers to pay it for forever?
No,
and all the people- Wait a minute, let me talk.
Okay, go. I'm sorry.
When all the people done paid to take this care of. And what happened 30 years ago is because the prosecutor wouldn't prosecute this man. So, you know what I'm saying?
Can I respond to that? Because that's exactly, okay, sorry. So what I did take notes, it says this. It is an infrastructure that maybe our prosecutors can get involved with, is a suggestion that I heard. A property owner must make a reasonable effort to maintain property under code 23-14-68-3. If the property owner fails to do this, it's a Class C infraction. If there are 2 written notices to the property owner, if they fail within 30 days after the second notice, then they can be fined. So I guess what I am hoping for is that process starts. We have the CPD, right, the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's Office, who is aware of the situation and willing to help us. I think it's going to take some time, but I think today is about beginning to find a solution to a problem that as you have well said, has been around a very long time.
So to summarize,
Cemeteries to see if they would take it over?
Yeah, I want you to be able, I want to say one more thing, then I'll walk away. They did say that Crest Haven was in a similar situation, and so I think there's a real possibility that rather than purchasing the cemetery can be given to us, then we still have to figure out how to maintain it, and I want to give Deb her due time.
So, Mr. Foley, I understand your frustration, but my response to the comment about years ago is embezzled and we have no funding. But is that fair to all the families that have loved ones out there, that we say, okay, we don't want to take care of it, we don't want to put money into it because someone embezzled it years ago? I'm here to say, I'm done. I'm done being on that property every weekend, mowing around 250 gravestones because someone who owns it doesn't care enough to put their money into it. We started out, my husband and I started out just mowing around about 6. Then we saw how nice it looked, and we had to go a row, forward and back. Then we added 2 rows and 3 rows. This year we added another half a section that's almost 100 headstones. Why? Because we went out there and there was a family who put little fence around their headstone with flowers. They planted flowers and they had a light. And we thought, oh, wow. And the weeds were taller than the flowers that they planted. I don't want to do that. I couldn't walk away. My husband and I could not walk away knowing that they've cared for their little spot, but it's surrounded by thistle weeds that are taller than myself. So yeah, I understand you're saying, okay, you're asking the taxpayers to pay for this. Yeah, initially I need that help. But I've made a plan in place that is not just this county. I'm going to the city to ask for money also. I'm getting grants. I'm talking with the people that matter to help me get funding. Once I build this perpetual fund, which I'm gonna move to a better account that would gain more interest. Once I build it to $3 million, I don't need it. The cemetery can maintain itself. That's my goal. My goal is not to ask for years of assistance. My goal is to ask for initial help to get this started, to help all the loved ones that have all these families out there that have to walk out in the middle of a field of thistles and weeds and bushes and falling down trees that are knocking over their headstones. It's enough. It's enough.
Well, I see what you're saying, but I think you should go get grant money and all that before you come to the taxpayers, to see what you can pull from the grants before you come to the taxpayers.
And if there's not grant money today, but I have to wait a year, are you willing to let that continue to get worse? No, we can't. We cannot let it get worse. We can't let it keep falling apart. That's why we're here today, and we're in this spot today, because it just keeps falling apart, and one person can't take care of it anymore. As a community, we have to stand up. As a person, I have to stand up, and that's why I'm here today, asking just for $375,000 to get it started, so you can see the difference that you guys that you have made because you gave me the funding.
Well, to summarize, so folks understand, and this is, you've explained the way I understood it. And it's ironic to use the word healthy with a cemetery, but a healthy cemetery starts off with the funding from selling the lots and the funeral expenses, and you build up like a trust, correct? And that's what you live off the interest and so forth. The community got victimized by Dirk Guffey, okay? And this isn't without precedent that a private bad guy victimizes the community or victimizes victims in general, and the people, the government is asked to pick up the pieces. Yeah, I don't think you owe us any apology for asking for this, and I greatly appreciate what you're trying to do, Deb, to your small corner of the world to make things better. I'm one of the people that's out there with a weed eater trying to keep my mom's grave clean. So I know what you're talking about. I'm not saying that we've got the money to do it, but so people understand, you'd like to build up this trust account again so you can go back to being self-sustaining, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So please don't feel like you have to apologize for asking about this, because I'd wager that 90% of the people in this room have loved ones out there. And you have to understand, this is a vicious cycle, because if you don't keep selling the remaining lots, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And who in their right mind would walk through IOOF today and buy a lot out there? Nobody. I'm surprised it's 37 people.
I just did 3 weeks ago.
I know, I'm sorry, I know you're in your right mind, Chuck, but you get my point. Well, anyway. I mean, I understand why the lots are not selling like they used to, because there's other cemeteries that people are gonna go to that still look nice. My dad's out at Grant Memorial. Beautiful. It's gonna get worse and worse, and it's going to get incurable eventually. And I hope you do find a way somehow to turn it around, because it is a darn shame, because that used to be a cemetery can be a focal point of the community. And I think it speaks to what kind of a community you have when I think that's our biggest cemetery, and it looks like that.
Any other questions from the council? Anybody have any more comments? Commissioners?
May I say something?
Yes.
I hope today's the beginning of a conversation that isn't just a conversation. I hope that today we all together can applaud Deb for the passion that she just brought to this podium and for the hard work that she did. And I have no doubt in my mind that if this can be turned over to her as a trustee, if we find a way to use the legal powers that we have, that then, as you suggested, we can find a way to get grants and things to maintain it. But how do we make sure it doesn't just stop here? How do we utilize the Attorney General's office, a complaint being filed? Who's the correct person to file that complaint? Can it be the county council that files that? That would be my request tonight. Thank you.
Can't the Attorney General on its own?
My understanding from his legislative assistant is that someone locally, he said it can be anybody. It can be anybody in this community.
You gotta have a complaint.
Can file, we have to have someone file a complaint. Yeah, my student got hold of me about a month ago and wanted to have a community meeting, and I said, let's just, we've got to give this a little bit of time, but too much time is too much time. And so what's the right amount of time to allow the process to work, but make sure that we are taking steps? And I think the first step is that it has to be a complaint.
What remedy can the AG get us, though? Let's say you have a complainant, they file a complaint, and they start pursuing it.
So I closed my computer on purpose because I thought I was done.
Sorry.
That's okay. I have enough of this out of my memory. My understanding is a local complaint would go to our prosecutor's office, and that then he would file a written notification to the cemetery owner. And and if I'm wrong, just know that this is what I was told. And that after 2 notifications, then it becomes a Class C, whatever I read to you.
It's an infraction.
Thank you.
So you'd have to
we
get
at least-
restitution out of the current owner.
Or a violation that would allow it to then be turned over to.
Eminent domain,
Yes,
so to speak.
exactly.
Okay.
I think that's the goal today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The goal today is for you to give us money.
Okay, sorry.
No, you gotta give me money. You gotta be able to start somewhere. I have to be able to start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, do we want to go back? Is the person online or here, David, yet? Mr. Field for
I was told it was
Baird?
online, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was told it was online.
Online, okay. Do we want to go back to that now? Is that okay? I'll let you take it from there.
Landon Bain.
Landon, are you online? Can you hear us this evening?
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
I know
great.
you had,
Great.
go right ahead on the presentation of your agreement, I guess.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So David, thanks for asking me to hop on. Commissioners, members of the council, thank you for the chance to introduce Baird and give you some background on how we can help in the county's project objectives. For background on the firm, we are one of the largest national bond underwriters. We've got an incredible history of underwriting across the state that goes back to the 1860s. We've done work decades ago for the county, and then more recently for the city of Marion, Gas City. David, if I'm not mistaken, I think you and I worked 4 years ago together on the sewage refinance for the city of Gas City.
Correct.
Additionally, we've got great emphasis in county finance, providing services to Henry County, Wells County, Hamilton County. Connor and I overlap there too. And recently sold bonds today for the city of Westfield. So with that, I'll give you an entree into how we can assist the county as you guys talk about the project objectives that you've got. So looking at the bond sale today, this was for a refinance of a facility for the city of Westfield, where we took an existing interest rate of 4.5% and refinanced it down to about a 3.75, saving the city over $800,000. That's just one aspect of where a bond underwriter comes into play. And we work amidst a team of what we call the finance team. That includes attorneys, advisors, and other members that you may designate to assist in project work, like a head of construction and engineering, for example. Our process is really collaborative, and it's meant to be more longer lasting as far as the perspective that we take on the objectives that you set and the goal that you have on your capital plans. So I know the topic at hand is initially a jail project, and we've got a number of recent projects in law enforcement that we've wrapped up. 2 weeks ago being the Warwick County law enforcement facility that we sold bonds for. But our work really focuses on the starting point in meetings like this, where we hear from you on what your actual objectives are, and then serve as a sounding board amongst the financing team to help you all navigate the best ways to achieve funding those projects. Our work across the state has given us a really good perspective on statute-specific projects, law enforcement being a big one with the recent changes in local income tax over the past few decades. So all of that comes together with advice back to the county team to help you guys contemplate what your priorities and objectives are, and then we show you actionable ways to achieve them. One thing I will say to highlight, and David and Connor might be able to back this up, our work is really focused around end objectives like, hey, how do we avoid issuing too much debt? If the objective is to try to fund a series of projects over a number of years, how do we look at ways to cash fund that? All of that flows together in strategies that we set in giving you guys support for making decisions for your constituents and taxpayers that ultimately hit the bottom line in the right way. At the end of the day, our role is to underwrite the bonds. So today, of 19.8 million in bonds that were sold, we stepped up and bought 3.5 that was unsold, 3.5 million. So that gives you good context for what our role is financially. We are here to stabilize a sale and finalize a sale, which is required by statute. And along the way, we give you real-time and accurate reads on what market conditions look like for any one project. All of that together, the starting line is well ahead of any point at which you issue bonds. And sometimes, and I'll reference one project over in Vigo County for their jail. I mean, we spent 5 years working on that one to work with the commissioners and the council to identify multiple different funding sources, multiple different strategies to avoid issuing debt. And at the end of the day, I think if we look at the objective, we dropped the debt issuance by a total of about $8 million in that case with different strategies we undertook. So hopefully that's a good background to the role that we serve. A highlight on our scope of services. We're a contingent partner, so we don't have any financial liability of the county while we work with you. And it really gives you guys the best of both worlds because you're able to access, our insights with the market, get real nuance-based advice around, 1 week you might have an issue pop up and want to understand how it implicates the financing strategy or funding strategy. You've got the ability to bring us on and use us to help create a solution for anything that might pop up. So I think that's a really good highlight to the scope of service, and our compensation comes in the form of a underwriter's discount that we get paid only at the point that we close a bond issue, which is customary for the industry. With that, I will take questions, and David, if you've got anything you want me to cover, please let me know.
I think you did a great job. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the members? Sorry, do you have anything else you'd like to add? I think everybody needed to hear the scope of work that Beard had presented to the commissioners. The council has now heard it this evening. So I think we're good, Mr. Wright.
Great.
Or Mr. Stewart here.
Yes, he is. Go ahead, you keep going. Can we keep on going? Okay, good. Okay, so that takes care of number one. Number two is all been gone through, so now we're to building discussions.
Before we get to building discussion, I know it's on your commissioner's agenda for the radios.
Yeah, in fact,
Could we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I should have probably went ahead and talked more. Let's go back into to two there as far as the ARPA project discussion. In front of you, I believe you've got a list of some recommendations or some possible ideas from the commissioners to the council, how we would like to possibly take a look at spending the dollars. And so on the top of the list would be the things that we knew at the time of items that we would like to go ahead and just discuss. Again, not making any decisions tonight, but just kind of getting it and answering any questions that you may have of us as commissioners of why we're heading in the direction that we would like to go. So I'll just kind of go down the list, if that's okay, so the general public can know as well. The Recycle Center cover, I believe Mr. White had requested somewhere around $200,000 to replace a cover for the Recycle Center for the county. We've got a seal repair annex exterior for $900,000. We've got courthouse repairs in the tune of about $312,171. That includes exterior cleaning, seal, and redesign, repaired sidewalks and patios. The jail design is in there for $1.5 million. Highway equipment, again, Mr. White came to us and shared with us, includes two 9-tire rollers, there we go, oil distributor truck, chipper box, and a small paver. That was to the tune of $1,075,000. Sheriff's equipment of $283,300. That would be to update, which is long overdue. Gas mask, tasers, and non-lethal weaponry. We have public safety radios to the tune of $1.124,326,000. That is to go to new radios for the Sheriff's Department, EMS, dispatch, EMA, and highway. We have township fire radios that's been requested of us to the tune of $390,000. That'd be $30,000 for each township. There's 13 of them that need new radios, and they're very concerned about some safety issues with their people entering and going in to fight the fires. So that's a concern. We've got $150,000 in there for the current chiller that we have out in the parking lot right now. That's working. That will, it's just a rental because we were hoping to get one more year out of it until we actually got our chiller installed, and it didn't happen. And so now we had to rent a chiller for $150,000. Fairmount Sewage has contacted us, down at Fairmount. They've got a request in for $600,000. The original request was for $934,000. We paired that back with seeing the other things that we feel has got some merit that we need to take a look at. The Jonesboro demolition, that's for $75,000. Mayor in Jonesboro had contacted us, as well as some other members of their council, and this is a King's Academy project where it's got some electrical running through an old building that needs to be tore down. The electrical needs to be moved, building needs to be tore down. They are lined up to try to get an Okra grant to make that happen, but they still need about $75,000. Cardinal Greenway, we deemed $100,000 in there. Original request was $300,000. Again, paring it down to the needs of the other things that we put up in the top. And then the 4-H Fairgrounds had come to us. Original request for $300,000 for a new building. We put in there $150,000 because we do hold meetings out there within the county that we have out there, and if we can help them out, that's something we felt that we needed to do. Of course, other items to consider, down at the bottom of the list is broadband, $22.5 million. That's, there was a possibility of no cost, but that went away. However, we are working with a grant of BEAD. Don't ask me what that stands for, but it's a state grant that might be out there. And so I know we've got some people working on that for us, and we're hoping to kind of come through with that. What was happening on the broadband was we were having companies come and say, hey, we'll do this for you. We want you to give us a recommendation to get the state funding and stuff. But what they were doing, they were cherry picking the area that they wanted where the most residents were. And so it was leaving out a lot of our other people that we really needed to cover. I mean, you know, if you're heading down a mile road and there's only 2 houses along, they didn't want to serve those people. Well, we want to. And so there was one company who came out and said, we want to do the whole thing. And we thought that they were going to get a grant for it. They weren't awarded a grant. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So the Salem Bank building looks like it needs about, for complete renovation, is about $4.3 million. The D-home cleaning, $50,000. I think that was to maybe mitigate some of the mold in there, maybe. Not familiar with that. Chiller boiler at 501, which again is the D-home area as well as the, what else is over there? Probation and all that. That's on its last leg. I mean, we've had somebody come in, parts and things like that, they're just not available for that. We're thinking instead of being in the condition we were with this chiller rental that we're doing for $150,000, because we're going to have to put heat and cooling in there. Instead of being in that position again, why not go ahead and just take a look at that and see if we can go ahead and do that. And be proactive instead of reactive. Reactive costs money. Highway equipment, there's a huge list that Mr. White gave us. Again, what's up above is the essential things that he needs, but another additional request for $2,385,000. We've been approached by Pam Harris, digitizing clerks' records. That's for $1,227,849, and that's to digitize all the clerks' records. Thompson Ray House over in Gas City requested $90,000 repairs to dry porch and gutters. Quilter's Hall of Fame is $25,000. The floor repair is what they were looking for doing there. Of course, Mississippi 1812 was before us tonight for the $2.5 million to purchase property. City blight of $1 million that the mayor requested. And then, of course, Ms. Keene just dropped hers from $500,000 to $375,000 tonight. So that's the list. Unfortunately, there's not enough money there to do all the things that's been requested, and it's up to this body of where we want to go to from there. I would take any questions at this time that anyone from the council has, or commissioners, or if you got other things to bring up.
No, I'm just going to mention that looking around the room, I see Mayor Morrell's here, Bud Shelton from Fairmount Water's here. So I didn't know if you wanted to take a few moments, and there may be others, but
Mayor Morrell has already been in front of us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
That's what I get from being.
No, I have not had Shelton up. Would you like to?
I don't know if you want to say a couple words, Bud, or.
Please take the podium if you would. Thank you.
Yeah, name's Bud Shelton from the town of Fairmount. This is Rob Lucy. He's of our engineer group, Commonwealth Engineering. We're just looking for some relief. We're ready to spend upwards of $10 million on a main trunk line that goes through the town of Fairmount. And what we're looking for is some assistance to expedite the project. We're looking for SRF money. We've applied for it, waiting to get it back, but they need project ready is what they need. So we're looking for something to go ahead and start our design, and that's what we're here for. If there's anything that is important for Fairmount, it's our wastewater. We have 17 CSOs in the town of Fairmount. And so we have to report to IDM, and they're kind of demanding a resolution to the problem that's been there for quite a while. So anything that was allotted our way would surely help. This first round of funding is going to be critical to our trunk line getting in. If there's any questions technically or about the way it'll be used, Rob Lucy would help us answer those questions. So,
Any questions from the council members or commissioners?
I would just like to add, this next project is what we refer to as phase 3 of the town's long-term control plan. They recently completed construction on upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant and also completed some sewer separation out in the collection system. That gets us down the path that we've committed to with IDEM, but we still need this final phase to get us to what they refer to as a level of control. And that's, long story short, once we get this third phase implemented, we'll have reduced the number of events that happen on an annual basis. And by that, I mean the CSO gets charged in excess of 50% of where they're at right now. And that gets them down to where IDEM wants them to be. So this project is about a mile of 36 and 42 inch pipe that goes right up the backbone of town along the east side of Back Creek. And through storage in the pipe and then maximizing flows through their new wastewater plant and their EQ that they have on site at the plant, we believe we'll get them to where they need to be and keep them in good graces with the state. So the list of projects that are eligible to get funded should be coming out really any week now from the state. We anticipate that we're going to be right there to get funding consideration through the state revolving funds. As Bud mentioned, if we get funded like we expect to do, they're going to want us to close within this current fiscal year, so that's before June 30th next year. So to meet that schedule, we need to get rolling on design. That's why we're here with the town today, is ask for the county's help to help front some of these upfront costs until we get to where we're at with loans.
So just for the general public, people may not know what a CSO is, combined sewer overflow, correct, from your stormwater to your sewer system. And when you have a major event of a rain, because you guys a quarter of an inch as well, quarter of an inch of rain is when you get into trouble. I know that's what Marion was.
yeah, typically we're moving up towards a half, but it all depends on how dry the ground is. How long it's been dry.
And so what happens is that the sewer can't take care of that because of all the water coming in, and so therefore it releases out into the river.
Yeah.
And that's what IDEM, and I love it when they give you an edict and don't give you any funds to help it. Right? We faced the same thing in Marion when I was on the city council, and it's no fun.
Yeah.
And then what's upstream from you coming downstream, they're in the same thing, trying to, so you can fix yours, but you still got the stuff coming at you, right?
Yeah.
So it's a real hassle. And I think that's one of the reasons we kind of moved it up there. And the original intent, I think, of the ARPA money was sewer projects that was in there, as well as tourism.
Broadband.
Yep.
And compensation for essential work.
Yep. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Anybody else got any questions or comments or concerns?
Well, along those lines, that's kind of what I was thinking is, I was going to ask, Fairmount's not the only community that's under IDEM edicts for separation of the sanitary and sewer lines, correct?
Yes, that's true. We've taken kind of a different stance towards it. Instead of separating it all, it's almost impossible to get a substantial number of separation, even if you run new lines. There's always infiltration. So we've decided that we wanted to treat it all as much as we can and separate where we have to. So that's why it'd be more cost effective for us to go with a larger trunk line through the middle of town and treat everything that we could possibly treat. And that particular pipe, we looked to gain about 2 million gallons worth of storage in the trunk line itself. So we were diligent to try to push towards that direction rather than the separation. And I think that we should be really close to our end goal after this project.
Their phase 2 project that they completed, it included separation and it included rehab of existing pipes. As Bud mentioned, you can chase I&I for a long time and dump a lot of money into it, only to get maybe 15-20% reduction. Part of the problem is the vast majority of it comes from the private side of the sewer laterals, whether they're leaking or there's downspout connections or sump pumps or what have you. And the town along those lines too is diligent in enforcing, those types of connections that aren't allowed within their system. But, to get to this point, we evaluated half dozen to 8 or 10 different alternatives on what made the most sense and go through the cost-effective analysis and all that fun stuff. And it ended up being the most bang for the buck here was build a larger pipe. And we're not going to abandon the old line, but when the old line fills up, this now gives it somewhere to go besides the creek.
So the public understands, this is the Indiana Department of Environmental Management basically handing down an unfunded mandate to Fairmount and other communities. Thou shalt take care of this pollution problem, basically, and they can fine you and all kinds of things if you don't comply and come up with this long-term control plan, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that leaves you all with the same problem other communities have. How in the world do we fund this mandate?
Yeah. And the timing is critical too. It's like the first round of funding is the one you want to be on, because later on there'll be more people involved with trying to get that funding. So,
yeah, the best opportunity to get lower interest rates on the long-term financing and potentially even some principal forgiveness is now. And, we're working with the town to do the best we can to make their application look as appealing as they can. And we told the state, we said, we've had some initial dialogue with the county, nothing's been committed, but we want you to know that we're looking at all of our options, and they look favorably on those types of things.
See, I think the public needs to know this is what their bureaucracy is doing to them. They're coming up with these things and saying, you're going to do this. We have no idea where you're going to get the money, but you're going to do it, or we're going to pound you.
Well, the reality,
we need to write letters.
The reality is they're staring at a 70+% rate increase if they have to borrow everything.
Piggybacking on what you said, Mr. Connor, there are other communities like Upland needing funds for their sewer project over there. I know Swayze is tapped out, and so you're right.
That is my concern.
Yes. If we do one for
more hands of this nature going to be out there, because is there anybody who's not under this mandate? Anybody with a sewer system?
Well, those two aren't the two that I mentioned, Upland and Swayze. They aren't on the river. So there's no CSO.
That's what controls it.
I'm sorry?
That's what controls it, is having.
That's correct. It's the overflow. That's the mandate. The overflow going in when you got heavy rain. Let's face it, when we get some heavy rains, that goes into the Mississippi River and or a finger or something like that. Both Upland and I don't think Upland or Swayze has that issue. I don't even know if they've got a combined sewer.
They do not. Swayze is totally separated. I'm not for sure about Upland.
And a quarter of an inch is not that heavy of a rain.
It's not. So when you get 2 or 3 inches like we had, right? I mean, it's not good.
Yeah, and Swayze does have that infiltration problem. But we're looking to solve ours. Any help would be greatly appreciated.
Any other questions?
None regarding this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
All right.
Could you break down the public safety radios? Could you break down the dollar amounts to each?
Still here? Yeah. You want to address that a little bit to the council and the commissioners? Mr. Hicks has been diligently working on that with all the entities that's listed there, Sheriff's Department, EMS, Dispatch, EMA, and Highway.
Sheriff. For the Grant County EMS, their estimate is $202,500.42. That would give them new mobiles in their ambulances. They're kind of a unique breed. They require a radio in the front, a radio in the back, one for the driver to use to communicate with dispatch, and another radio in the back for the EMT to communicate with the emergency room. So theirs are a little bit more expensive, but that would give them the radios in their trucks. They currently already have 4 installed, waiting for payment because of the new ambulances. Grant County Highway, $188,386.78. And that is to give them all new equipment and bring them onto the county-owned system. They're currently on a standalone VHF system. What that would do, that would enable them to communicate with our first responders who are on the system. That also gives them the ability to communicate with the city of Marion, who is also on our system. Grant County Central Dispatch, $50,000. That was one that we are in desperate need of a backup communication system. If something happens downtown and we have to vacate our building, we have nothing. So the request for that would be to put 4 radios in the command bus so that we could at least have radio communication outside of dispatch. So we can use the Zetron radio system so long as we have internet connection. But if you don't have internet connection, then we are literally dead in the water. And that would help fund that, and then that would also help fund AT&T FirstNet push to talk, which basically puts our radio system on smartphones. You can be anywhere with LTE or cellular connection or Wi-Fi and communicate on the system, and that would help set that up for each of our 4 dispatch channels that we use. And that would also be open to the schools, to the hospital. Should they want to invest in that system, they could do that as well at their expense and be able to use the same push-to-talk function on their smartphones. They also have various radio look-like devices that are both Wi-Fi and cellular enabled. So, they have a wide variety of products that would help fix that need.
Does that have a monthly bill?
Yes, they do. They do. And that would be up to the agency who uses the equipment to maintain that. I would provide the backbone for the 4 dispatch channels that we use. County Law, Marion Law, County Fire, EMS, and Marion Fire. And then it would be up to the agencies to provide the equipment to their end users and maintain that.
Do you have the funds currently in your budget to do those things?
I can purchase from rough estimates, I can purchase the backbone for the equipment, but I cannot purchase the radios themselves that are required to operate.
In the monthly fee that Mr. Middlesworth brought up?
Right.
Is that already in your budget?
No, it is not.
It is not.
This is something that has come to light within the last 4 or 5 months. Bob Jackson and I have met with AT&T, kind of got a rough estimate of what it would cost to get it set up, and we're still kind of looking, but this would give us the funds to do that, based on the estimates that we've gotten so far from FirstNet.
These estimates are from J&K?
Yes, they're from J&K Communications, and they're for Kenwood radios.
How much are they saying like a portable is?
Sorry. You're all right. So a single band portable, which is just a 700-800 megahertz radio, no VHF capability, is $2,627.38 a piece. And that's for a portable radio that they would carry on them.
Yeah, how much is a mobile?
Let's see here. So for the dual band, check for a dual head, which dual band 700, 800 radio for the sheriff, that way they can monitor both the state site and our site would be $7,200. But we've worked with the sheriff and the commissioners, and we've put a patch on our radio system to where the state police dispatch and the regional mutual aid that dispatch is used to communicate with the state police all come across our system now on one of our talk groups, so they no longer need that radio. So a single band radio would be $3,411.44. And that price will also carry over for the highway department. EMS, theirs, because it's a dual head, they've got a radio head in the front, a radio head in the back, that is $7,053.76. And those are the mobiles.
And that's all Kenwood?
All Kenwood. Okay.
That was all the questions I had.
Let me see here. I think EMA, EMA cost is $37,733.79. And that's for a combination of mobiles and portables. They currently only have VHF radios in their cars.
Any other questions?
And I did include $45,000 for miscellaneous costs for installation and that kind of stuff for the number that I presented to the commissioners. The sheriff, did you want to have a speak on behalf of the sheriff's office? Sure.
So the remaining balance would go to the sheriff's department?
Whatever he's requesting, yes, sir.
We're requesting $600,765. We're actually wanting to stay with the Motorola instead of going to the Kenwood. One thing that we found out when we made a switch back in early 2000s when I was at Marion Police Department, we went away from Motorola. And those radios constantly had issues with. We know that Motorola is a proven product. And for us in law enforcement, our radios is our lifeline. So we want to make sure that our radios are working, that when we push that button, if something bad happens, we want to make sure that people can hear us. We want to make sure that we're able to hear our officers that are in distress. So that's why we're wanting to stay with the Motorola brand because they're a proven radio. The radios that we're looking at getting, and I don't know all the technical jargon that Kevin does, but it will allow our deputies to be able to switch from the radio frequency to either Wi-Fi or cellular frequency in locations where we may not be able to communicate. One of the biggest areas we have problems in out in the county is when you go into a school, you can't communicate via your radio. So by going to these radios, it will allow us to either get on their Wi-Fi or get on the cellular network, and we'd still be able to communicate. And not only at schools out in the county, but really any building in the county, whether it's in the city of Marion or out in the county, we just always have issues communicating with each other. And Grant County is a big county. I don't know if everybody realizes that. So we need to be able to communicate with each other because safety is priority for us. So that's why we want to stay with the Motorola radios.
How much is your portables, you know?
600,000. We're not getting portables. We're just getting walkies. We're not getting any for the cars.
So you're just getting portables and not
Yeah. And
How much is a portable?
Individually, let me see if we got that on here. I'm sorry I didn't bring my glasses.
I know, little backstory, I mean, we had a meeting and he was checking into the pricing on the Wi-Fi. I never heard back, from that group on what the cost was, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, we have and I didn't bring these because I didn't know we were going to get up here and talk today. This is our quote. I'll get copies of you guys. That really breaks it down to the $600,000. So I can get that down to you. Let me see if I can decipher their quote here. Do you remember what the price was for you?
I wasn't given that, so I'm not sure.
I'll get back with you on the exact price on that.
And these are all handheld?
Yes.
And how many are there?
Well, we're getting one for every officer, every deputy. We have, what we're doing, we kind of split it up to save money. Our deputies will get the ones that are able to hook up to Wi-Fi and to cellular, or deputies that are on the road or detectives will get that. Our reserves will just get regular walkies that save us a little bit of money. And our special deputies that work at the courthouse, same thing, they'll just get regular radios that will help save us some money.
So how many total?
We have, I want to say, let's see, we have 43 road deputies, let's say about 60 radios, 60 to 70 radios.
Are the current ones Motorola?
Yes.
But you're still having trouble with them?
No. What I'm saying, we had trouble when I've been married. We switched from Motorola to Johnson radios. We had Johnson radios, and we had all kinds of problems with them. Then Mary ended up switching back to Motorola.
Okay.
So we want to stay with Motorola.
Have you ever used Kenwood?
No.
Do you have any specific knowledge of Kenwood not working?
Not that we know of. The thing is, when you're in our line of business, you don't want to take a chance of them not working when you need them. And we know that Motorola works. I know I push that button on that Motorola radio, it's going to work. And my job is to make sure that our people are safe and that they can get out if they're in trouble. So that's why we want to stay with Motorola.
Update the radios you have or trade it in to get some kind of discount from them?
I think that will be traded in, if I remember correctly. But this was a quote that they gave us. And I'll get these quotes to you guys. I know we're supposed to speak Monday at the commissioners meeting, so I didn't bring any of that paperwork with me, but I'll make sure I get that to you first thing tomorrow. We'll get that email to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
What else would you like to kind of dive into?
I have nothing else unless the members do.
Nobody here to speak on township fire radios, probably.
There is someone who had talked to me about township fire radios, Mr. Spalding. I'd met with him, and would you like to talk about that?
I can take questions if you have specific questions. I can lead off by, we had talked, I think the number that had been tossed around for the 13 volunteer fire departments was $30,000 each. That was, and we had talked about it, I think I was on the WebEx during one of the council meetings. That was an old number that had actually gone up to like 42,000 and change. And that was the bare minimum to get a volunteer fire department, 12 handheld radios, and I think one quick unit is what it was. And that was like $42,000 $300,000. In order to completely outfit one of the fire departments, the last quote that I got from J&K was $106,038.52 per fire department. So you're looking at $1.2 million if you were to completely outfit each of the 13 volunteer fire departments. But like I said, the $390,000 number had been tossed around a lot. That was given each fire department $30,000 each. And that would be substantial toward, helping them move forward with getting some equipment. Unfortunately, a lot of us have already had to go out and either finance equipment or, dedicate some of our other fundraising that would have went for other major equipment like, extrication equipment and stuff like that. We've had to take that money and put it toward radio just so we feel safe communicating. So we've offset some of our funding from where it was supposed to go toward communications, and that leaves a lot of the departments in a position where they need to, I guess, recuperate some of those funds so they can then go buy the equipment that they're supposed to. Improvement's great, the new system and all that, it helps with communication, it's more reliable, it gives us a lot more interoperability, but it's put volunteer fire departments in a real bad situation, I guess, up front, so.
Sir, what did you say that total amount was that you needed to totally?
If you wanted to totally outfit one of the volunteer fire departments, it's $106,038.52. That was the last quote that I got from J&K. That was February 23rd of this year.
And that was for every fire department?
That was per fire department.
Correct.
To completely outfit.
But they actually went to every fire department, volunteer fire department, come up with that number. Or did it just go to one?
What we did is we went to all of them and we took an average of what it would, that's an average of what it would cost.
Is that like per member? You're talking about like each volunteer fire department has so many members?
Our volunteer fire departments have, they all, I'd say they range, they want a roster, most of them that have between 20 and 25 people, some of them are up to 30. Most of them, sometimes they're only running 6, just volunteerism, and that's what it used to be. But I think ideally for a volunteer fire department, any of our townships to be successful, you need to maintain between 17 and 25 active members. So if you take the average of that, and then you take, the average trucks the volunteer fire departments have, and we also look at how many people actually do interior firefighting on the scene and things like that. We took a lot of different stuff into consideration as far as what it would take to safely outfit a volunteer fire department. Like I said, we took an average is what we did. And this quote's been passed along several times to Kevin, I don't know, I'm sure the council's probably had to go across their desk at some point or another. I know the commissioners have had it, but at a minimum, that $30,000 that everybody was working off of, I would say, if you bear with me just a second. That $30,000 at a very bare minimum for our fire department is $42,184.34. That's how much it's gone up since this whole request and process originally started. And like I've said several times, the volunteer fire departments as a mutual aid group have all gone together, I think, 3 times and tried getting assistance of firefighter grant to purchase everybody's stuff. A few of us have gone off on our own and applied for the assistance firefighter grants. We've gone to the Round Robin. We've gone to the Community Foundation. We've extended all of our resources trying to get the funds. Not that we've been lackadaisical about it by any means. So, is there any specific questions? I know I just spattered out a whole bunch of information there, but.
Okay, not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Spalding.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. Any other questions on the list? If not, we'll move on to buildings. Let me ask this, does anyone need to take a break? Just.
I heard a yes.
I heard a yeah, okay. Let's, it is 10 minutes to 8. Let's reconvene at 8 o'clock if we may. All right? Reconvene the meeting if we may. If I can have everybody's attention in the room quiet, please. What? Thank you, Mr. Middlesworth. Needed a heavier hammer right now.
What do you use to pound it, Grandma? Official. You carry that with you?
You want me to glue it down?
Yeah, you and I put a little secret compartment.
So, gentlemen, I would ask, please, we're ready to get back in the meeting. Thank you. I would ask, is there anything on the list that, again, I know we're not going to take votes tonight, but is there anything on the list that is a common ground type thing? I mean, this is kind of what the commissioners are throwing out there. I know you guys have a meeting on Wednesday night, and we have one on Monday morning. Is there any, because there is a little bit of a concern about the timeline of this money. We want to make sure, Mr. Connor, you want to talk to that as far as timeline, and just so everybody understands the procedure of making sure we spend the money and we get the money, right? And we don't have to claw it back on us.
Absolutely, sir. Do I need to go stand up there for the microphone?
Yeah, if you would.
Yes, sir. Thank you, members of the council and the commissioners. As you guys have probably heard me way too many times about the deadline of December 31st, 2024, it's probably going to be no surprise to all of you that the leadership in Washington cannot make up their mind on what they want to do. And one of the more recent determinations and clarifications on the definition of obligation, which is what you have to have the ARPA funds obligated by the end of this year, and then it's actually spent by the end of 2026, is that the ARPA funds have to be incurred. If you look in the weeds of it, and I can send the most recent FAQ to Mr. Glickfield as well, so he can also take a look at it. You have to have it now under contract. And so it's no longer enough that you put it on a list and you've agreed on it and you know the dollar amount. They want you to put it in writing, in contract. And why that's something to note, if you're going to use it for, if it's going to be purchasing radios or land or whatever it is, you have to go through your normal form of procurement, which, as we all know, local government does not happen overnight. It takes time to match up with all the public notices and the public hearings, getting bids, opening bids, interviewing people, all that stuff. And so I just want to make sure that everyone's mindful of that. I know that Madam Auditors worked diligently with the Coonrod and their team and has filed the appropriate reporting. And she can also, after that, I'm sure that it's one of those things that I have no doubt that the Treasury will keep changing it to what they want you to do, because the idea is they want you to have to eventually pay that back so they can use it for Lord knows what else they want to do with it. And so that's something to take note of. The other part I want to mention too, so not only do you want to have it under a contract, but you have to be careful of it too, because once it's under a contract, even if it goes into next year, say you're working on a project and there's some kind of major issue, you can't just amend your contract at that point in time. There's steps that you'll have to go through. And again, I'll send this to Mr. Glickfield, and we can help walk everyone through that. But there's even certain procedures that even after you have the contracts in place, once you hit December 31st of 2024, it's not as easy as you normally would. So if you're doing a road project or something else and there's a change order, typically if you have it in the budget, you just cut the change order and move on. And so with these ARPA funds, it's not going to be that simple, unfortunately. The process, there's 3 or 4 exceptions of how you get around that. They're not exactly finalized yet, and hopefully they'll be finalized here within the next couple of weeks. But again, it's just something to take note of. And I apologize, I lost my voice this week and I'm coming back, so I apologize for sounding a little hoarse. But I apologize for sounding like a broken record. I know I probably said to everyone up here all the time, and Madam Auditor knows that as well. But I just want to make sure that it's imperative that you understand that, because it sounds like you have projects lined up and ready to go. And it'd be a shame if you had to send that money back to the federal government. So with that.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
So I guess I had reached out to Coonrod and Abby specifically regarding claiming lost revenue and
the $10 million amount. Yes, sir.
The 10 million. And so, we talked a little bit about obligation, and the Treasury currently defined obligation as an order placed for property and services and entry into contracts, subawards, and similar transactions that require payment. I guess if we do claim lost revenue and we decide to use salaries, like we're gonna pay out salaries, anything that the general fund's currently paying, we could use those funds. How do you have a contract for like salaries or?
No, that's an excellent question, Mr. President. And so when it comes to I think it's the hazardous pay essentially for employees, or if you're trying to, with all the limited use for paying employees for whatever purpose, that, and then also for compliance matters, you don't have to have it under contract. You have to still outline it and say, here's our plan, and have it adopted as part of your ARPA plan. At that point in time, Coonrod and their team will help make sure that it's filed on the report correctly, and it's a compliance issue at that point in time. So for your salaries for employees and stuff like that, there's no contract, right? But you have to have that one in writing, and the Coonrod's team will help you make sure that's in your report correctly. And further with that, I know you guys already have the contract with Coonrod, so you're ahead of the game. But say, if you didn't, or if there's something else that changes, you need some other kind of compliance, the ARPA funds, you can say, hey, I'm just throwing out a number, $10,000 we're going to keep in the bank for ARPA compliance at the end of it for closeout purposes or whatever it is. You don't have to have that under contract too, because it's speculative and it's associated with you trying to be compliant with the federal regulations. But again, you want to put that in your report that Coonrod and the Madam Auditor are working for to file. I think that one would be the annual report. But so yes, that is correct, Mr. President. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a unique situation, but.
So hypothetically, the county could claim the lost revenue and pay out salaries till the end of the year and some other expenses.
It would depend on the other expenses, Mr. President, and for like salaries per se, you would want to say in your plan, if it goes past December 31st of 2024, you would want to say we're paying these types of employees, classified, determine whatever it is, and pay them up to this dollar amount. And then to say when that will be paid. Say it's $10,000 for employee A. If you're going to pay that employee A $10,000 right away, or over a year, over 2 years, you want to probably put that in there. So that's part of your plan. But for other things that are in your general fund, do you mind giving me an example, Mr. President, so I can maybe help?
I don't have anything off the top of my head. I'm just thinking any claim that could come out of the general fund.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir. I can get back to you, sir, if you think about it. I apologize, sir.
So you want us to sign these contracts in 2024, but the money don't have to be spent until 2026.
Yes, that's correct, sir. And I don't want you to sign any contract you don't want to. I don't.
I'm just saying this. So a contract comes in there, and he does it in 2024. They don't spend the money until 2026. You know how much more material and everything's gonna go up?
Oh, I agree, sir, and I don't want to tell you how to run the county, sir, by any means. I apologize if that's.
Well, no, you see what I'm saying?
No,
how do you offset that?
So what I would say is, hopefully, depending on what it is, hopefully you get either lock in the price, be in the contract at the time. If it's, say it's a radio. Down in Hamilton County, they're purchasing radios right now, and I know that the lead time for those things is 6, 9 months, 12 months out. And so hopefully what you can do is when you're negotiating that contract with it, because these are big dollar amount things, and Motorola, actually that's one that I've worked with directly recently too, they'll work with you on the contract. You can lock that price in and get it done. But for a contractor like a public works job, that's a good point, because it is hard to, under the normal public works procurement, change orders are permitted. And so I think, if you don't mind, sir, I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I don't want to give you the wrong one right now. I can work with a Coonrod's team, and we can help look into that for you. I just don't want to give you the wrong answer right now. You rely on that. Yes, I do entirely, yes. And I think that's, there's certain types of procurement, like the BOT, that you're doing different ones. You get that guaranteed max price law. It might be protected there.
Like we do the 911 call center, and we get bids for 2024. they decide not to do it until 2026, materials went 100% up. How you gonna justify that?
That's a good question. If you don't mind, I will look into that for you, sir, and respond back to you. That's okay? Yes, sir. Commissioners, does that answer any questions, concerns, or anything? Is there anything else you'd like me to address on the matter?
Anything else that the council would like to know or anything? I mean, I think that's the real crux of it is why I was in front of the council back in February talking about the need to make sure we're trying to figure out where we're going to put these dollars and to make sure we can get them clawed back. We want to make sure every dollar stays in Grant County that we've been given. And Madam Auditor is taking care of that for us and stuff like that, but we also want to make sure that she's got all the documentation that she needs, because if we don't do it right, we're going to have to go back and give it to her community. And I'm concerned with that. You know, here we are in July, we're still talking about it. That's the reason I was asking if there was anything on the list that we could kind of agree on. At least that's something that we were looking at as a council and the commissioners, that we can go ahead and put in place and start talking about it in our meetings. That would be the thing. So, and you guys may need to huddle up, you know, some of you or something like that. We've kind of come up with this list that we feel is an important thing for our community and for safety and all the different things that we're looking at there and helping out some other communities. But again, it's up to you where these dollars are spent. It's our job to bring them to you. It's your guys' job to fund it.
Would it be appropriate if we somehow prepared something presented to your Monday meeting, because we meet then on Wednesday, kind of what, maybe what those thoughts are?
That'd be great. I mean, I think to expedite anything that we can possibly do so we don't run into what Mr. Bowling's saying, that prices change and things like that. I mean, anything that we can do to make sure that we're spending this money the best way we can. And I agree. I mean, we need to, whatever we do at this point, I think since it's July, we need to lock in a price with whoever we're dealing with. I mean, it can't be one of these loosey-goosey things. Well, yeah, we'll do that. Oh, it's up 30%. Can't do that at this point.
I know you're not with Coupon, so, but.
I work with quite a bit though. So.
Is it possible to give an estimate? So when they prepare that plan for us, how long does that process take? Do you have any range of feeling over that?
For the actual ARPA plan, is that correct? Is that your answer to the question, sir? It varies. I know that Madam Auditor and their team have been working constantly with it, so the fact that they are on top of it, and actually, believe it or not, a lot of counties and towns and cities are unfortunately not in a spot where you guys are that are behind, so it's not looking good for them, but your team is on top of it. I would say it could probably take, if you guys were to say, hey, here's what our projects are, have a rough idea what the number is, they could, or projects or paying salaries or whatever it is, with what they've already done, and I apologize, I don't put you in a spot, but I'd say maybe 30 days or so, that I could probably put it, maybe less, but I know that, like I said, the fact that you guys have hit it every step of the way, you won't be playing catch up, they'll just be putting a lot of it down, right? So.
I wouldn't want to wait till the very last minute.
No,
and I'm confident there's a consensus of spending the money that we have before us and not sending it back, but just at least give us a time frame of what we're considering.
The plan's important too, because if you are going to do a project where, like Mr. Floyd said, where it requires a procurement, you know, it takes 30 days to get the plan updated or put together, I believe. Then say you're going through, depending on whether it's a public works project, and you get 2 bids, you got to go through the whole process. That's 2 months, maybe something like that. So all of a sudden you're at 3 months to the point where you can decide it, and at that point you might want to negotiate, change scope and all that stuff. So you can see how that quickly adds up. What if 5 months out, it puts you in a spot where you don't want to make a rash decision in November or December and make a decision because you're running out of time. So I think smart planning, like Commissioner Wright's saying, is imperative to start this going sooner than later.
Do we have to advertise our plan?
You guys are discussing at a public meeting right now. The reports that the auditor files are public record. I would advise that you guys keep having this kind of conversation. You approve them on record like this, and that would be sufficient. There's no harm in publishing it by any means. In fact, it's obviously, you'll know, it's better to be more transparent. But I think to get the team rolling to create the plan, if you were approved project numbers or lists or whatever it is, a public meeting, they can take it from there, and that'll be sufficient for the list side of it, not the procurement and negotiating the contracts and all that stuff. But does that answer your question, sir?
It does, and transparency is an important part of all. We know that there's delays whenever we have to do the advertising, but if we can somehow through our meetings and we can provide that public comment, I think that would be important too.
Ultimately, we already have the ordinance in place. All we have to do is attach the spending to it. And when we adopt, then we send to you for appropriation. And there is, correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Auditor, but 2 legal ads that we have to do.
That is correct, Commissioner. I forgot about the appropriation part of it. That's something we'll be mindful of too, which unfortunately adds time to it.
I want to be, I guess, a little bit transparent, but when it comes to the time frame, nobody likes to be under the gun.
No.
Right?
No, sir.
And when you're under the gun, normally you make rash decisions, right? And again, circling back to the lost revenue piece, we could claim the remainder as lost revenue, the 6.8 million, and we could pay out salaries between now and the end of the year, which in my calculation would be
I think probably max of 25,000 per employee too. I'll double check that.
There is a max.
Yes, there is a max of
which would
that.
be 7 million roughly between now and the end of the year, which then would save the general fund dollars to be spent at a later date, obviously. But that's something just to think about, that you don't have to be under the gun.
And Mr. President, to your point, I think Commissioner Wright, with him that have been leading the charge, I know there's been plenty of conversations. I don't intend to insinuate that you guys are all under the gun. Commissioner Wright has been leading this charge. I mean, I've been coming to these meetings for probably far more than you care to see me and hear me talk about it. And I know at Madam Auditor, I've had phone calls and emails back and forth and whatnot. So I don't mean to insinuate that by any means. I think you guys have well ahead of a lot of people. And the groundwork laid for the commissioners with your guys' ARC plan already in the ordinance from several months ago. You guys are in a good spot to do that. But that is correct. You could do something like that. Now, one clarification, the lost revenue is important because it's not only something you can use for salaries, but under ARPA, there's 4 permitted uses, like Commissioner Bardsley Wright said. Tourism industry is one, because that was hit terribly by COVID. Environmental issues, so sewer, water, that kind of stuff, drinking water. Anything COVID related, if you guys had, whatever it is. Then the employee salaries one, and then the lost wage, the lost revenue reduction one is a $10 million threshold. If you put it under that, that'll help make Madam Auditor's life a heck of a lot easier, because reporting requirements are lessened and more flexible, and you can use your procurement that is directed to you by Indiana code rather than going to the Code of Federal Regulations for their procurement. One quick example: if you wanted to hire an attorney as a professional service, you make an opinion that's based on who you think is the most qualified for that. Under federal procurement, if you want to hire a professional service, an attorney or engineer, you have to go through a bidding process, and that takes a lot of time. Indiana code provides you that flexibility, less reporting requirements, get a valid contract, give it to the auditor, pay the claims, boom, you're done, right? Federal stuff, you got to worry about Davis-Bacon, you got to worry about how you do it. And so that revenue reduction is bigger, sir, than just the employee salary. It's going to help you be more compliant. And Madam Auditor, is there anything you'd like to add about that? I know you and your team have worked with Coonrod and are working to make sure that's all in line and everything correct.
Yeah. We're working to do our second quarter reporting, and the more information we have, the better it will be.
Makes everyone's life a lot easier.
So I want to bring up something that if you remember right, when I was back here, I believe in February, when Mr. Connor came in and explained things. When you do what's being talked about, that takes away, I believe, the council's responsibility of the money and puts it in the commissioners. And I know that was the issue when we first started talking about this dialogue. As far as I'm concerned, as a commissioner, I want to work with the council to do whatever is best for our community. And I think the other 2 commissioners feel the same way. So Is that a true statement, Mr. Connor, or?
Commissioner, I would agree entirely. I've been in communities where there is the gridlock, and I, unfortunately, they will probably have to give money back. I would say, with you guys having a committee and these meetings like this, it's collaborative. You have to, the commissioners decide the project, you guys decide if you want to fund it and appropriate it, right? You have to have these conversations. You're a lot farther along than most municipalities. So yes, Commissioner, that is 100% correct. Most of them, maybe they don't know what ARPA is because they just don't talk about it and they just don't care, fortunately.
So I guess that's kind of the elephant in the room, if you will. If we do decide to go that way, to go ahead and put the money in like that. If we do that, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sullivan, that becomes the responsibility of the commissioners. Is that correct?
So if I understand you, sir, one way you can expedite it is in theory under the revenue reduction, the council could appropriate it for the revenue reduction purpose, which is about $6 million left, which is under the $10 million threshold. At that point in time, the commissioners would go along the list and start knocking them down. That would be a faster way, yes, than having to go back and make sure everyone agrees on every single one at a time.
But that's what he's asking you to possibly do for the salaries.
What I'm asking is for specifically would be for salaries. It wouldn't be for the list.
The salary specifically, you'd want to put that in a plan of some sort. That would be.
It would be whatever the commissioner's plan would be, we would approve.
Yeah, and yes, that's, whatever
But if they said if the commissioner said they wanted to do the Revenue Reduction Act or revenue reduction.
Yes, sir.
And we agreed to it, and then their plan said that they was gonna pay the salaries for the remaining of the year in their plan, and we approved it, that'd be up to you.
Logistically, I don't know how to connect the dots just off the top of my head, but the big picture, yes, you can do that. That's an option. And at that point, you would free up general fund dollars for similar purpose.
It's just food for thought.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm just saying
that.
That won't put you behind the timeline.
And that might also be, I'm just thinking out loud here, it might help with reporting requirements too, because you have one or two times. But if you don't mind, Mr. President, I'd have to let me think about that a little more, but I see what you're saying, and initially I don't see why that would be from a legal standpoint, and something you could not do.
That puts us on a timeline for this, but not the 6.8, correct? Am I understanding you right?
It just don't put you on a timeline
at all.
Even for this.
Right.
You want to be careful that council would know better than I would, but you don't want to do that for the $6.8 million as general fund, and then the end of the year happened, and I don't know if that goes back, or how your guys' budget and everything works, so that's something you might just want to.
Yeah, I'd have to revert back at the end of the year sometime.
And that's something we can sit down and talk about. That's right. That's the only additional thought. But it would help, I think, was the time.
And it gives you better time to plan out projects. You won't be under the gun. And we do got new commissioners coming in.
That was the only thing I was saying.
I still know the exact answer. I've never thought about that, but I don't see why reading that's not there. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I'm sure you guys have all heard enough of my hoarse voice. If you have anything else, just let me know. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Connor.
Thanks, Connor.
Okay, nine's getting away here. 8:23. Going into building discussions, EMS building. I've been kind of the lead commissioner on that project out there. We had a fire, everybody knows. We have gotten with all the department heads that's got storage out there with all the different things. We have worked with EMA to secure a storage bin, if you will, where we feel that every document can go in there that needs to go in there. That's sealed. It's definitely not temperature-wise, but it'll be a sealed rats and things will be getting into it, right? And but all the department heads have kind of been going through their things. I know we still have a few things out there that we need to go through. Dawn has been, Ms. Harness has been the point person out there on that. We'll be getting together with the department heads one last time and saying, okay, whatever's in there is going to go. You got to get the stuff out that you need. And of course, this all comes to the state too. I mean, the state makes you keep records. And so what we don't want to do is get in problems with the state. We'll fire that back up, that group back up. I know Mr. Herbert's had some stuff out there, the treasurer had some stuff out there. We just need to clean that up. And then we're ready to take down the building, which I believe, as everybody in agreement, that it's too far gone and really not anything that we want to keep, if I'm correct. So Mr. White has said that he would help demo that for us, which we can do that all in-house. And then the only thing that Mr. White can't take care of is the wood. And Mr. Jackson said that they could use that for fire training purposes. And so we'll take care of the wood through fire training purposes and give him an opportunity to go ahead and do some practice, if that makes sense. So that's kind of it on the EMS building. The Salem Bank building, that one there, had someone come to me with some interest in purchasing that, local person. It was a board that their board had already said that they had $3 million to put towards a building. That building needs about $3 to $4 million worth of renovation to it. We were working through the details of trying to make that happen, even though our central dispatch is in the basement. Their group had agreed to go ahead and leave central dispatch in there for a maximum of 10 years, rent-free and utility-free. Utilities on that building is about $24,000 a year. And we got some estimates. We were going to do a swap in the buildings with the entity, and used to be an old doctor's house or doctor's building. And so it was going to be perfect for medical or I want to say health department. And so wheelchair ramp, plenty of parking, a place where if we did get into another pandemic, it'd be a great place to give shots if we needed to give shots. But when it was found out that some members wasn't interested in doing that, it got canned. So now that deal's off. So that building needs a lot of work. And that's kind of where I'll leave it. It's just sad that we didn't get rid of a $3 million albatross over our taxpayers. That's my take.
Maybe for future buyers, we don't want to refer to it as an albatross.
Well,
It's a wonderful market.
Unfortunately, that building, I'm sure, I think everybody's kind of been through it. It's got a lot of problems and stuff, and needs a new roof. There's I think close to $1 million, it's $900,000. Bobby Jackson's desk gets wet a lot with all the rains and stuff because the roof leaks, and the elevator shaft gets some water in it. I mean, it's just got a lot of problems. And so anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Salem Bank building. Jail building. Who would like to address jail building? And why we had that on the list?
What is there?
Jail building.
Can you just give the committee give a quick update on where we're at with the jail?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So as you may or may not know, we have a committee that's doing a jail study. It's comprised of myself and Councilman Scott and Sheriff Garcia. And we've met with several different companies, getting some advice and just getting some different opinions about some different things. We are at the process we're at now. We're ready for the BOT design. We're ready to select a company for that. We have two companies, Garmong and BW Construction, and we are in the process of trying to set up interviews to have those two companies come in. So once the two companies come in, then the three of us, with some buy-in from Justin and Connor, I think I'm forgetting somebody else.
Sure.
But the three of us will then make a decision on the company that we've selected. We will take that to the commissioners, for the commissioners to vote on. So we're hoping to have those interviews, hopefully in the next week or two.
Were you thinking Dale Davis?
Pardon me?
Were you thinking Dale Davis?
Yeah, Dale's here. Yeah, so, yeah. We're still waiting on that, Dale, correct?
Correct, we need to select a date so we can get the teams in here to talk with it.
Yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much, that's what's going on with the jail. We're just looking for, trying to figure out what our options are at this point.
We do have Mr. Davis here tonight, as well as representative from Envoy. Would you guys want to hear anything from them while we're in this meeting?
Rich, Dale, do you have anything that you want to say?
Here to answer any questions.
I have nothing.
Okay.
Anybody have anything?
Okay. We'll obviously keep everybody posted on who we select and how the interviews went.
And which leads us into the detention home building. Any comments on that? I know there's been a lot of talk about possibly firing that back up and trying to get rid of our $80,000 or $90,000 that we're spending out of the month for inmates to be someplace else and somewhere else. Any questions about that? We wanted to put it on the list. We could talk about that publicly.
Any updates on your side of things with that building?
On
thoughts or
I mean, listening to our advisors and stuff, maybe Mr. Davis would talk about that. We have some concerns about the amount of money that it would take to fix it up. Is that something, that we need to take a look at when it comes to the D home in there? The cleaning is $1,000 is going to do that job. So what is that? So Mr. Davis?
Yeah, when we got the DLZ study back, we took that and estimated the amount of work that would be needed. One, just to get it back open, and two, to actually use it as a long-term asset. Unfortunately, the expensive part of it is mechanical and the cells, and that's going to drive our cost a lot. Just to get it back open, you're looking at around $4 to $5 million. That's been validated by, got a quote for the just direct replacement of the HVAC that was $700,000 alone. When we were looking at the stabilization option, it was also taking care of some of the environmental issues. I know there's humidity control issues, various environmental issues. The other part is there are some concerns with the cell systems that need to be addressed. Doors swinging the wrong way. I know padded cells need updated. Detention equipment's expensive, and working on something that is meant to not be tampered with is also expensive. So that's where the $5 million number came from. Now, if we wanted to turn it into 20, 30-year building, we'd be looking at closer to 11 or 12 million. And that's because we're looking at a roof now, we're looking at fixing the EFIS, we're looking at potentially a redesign inside because the cells are too small for adults. So we either need an exemption from the state, which, and we can, you all can reach out and see if we can get a permanent exemption, but I don't know if they would support that. So our cells are too small, so they would have to be reconfigured, and that will be expensive.
I guess the detention center bill was originally from Envoy, correct?
RQAW designed it.
RQAW, was that Envoy's, what was Envoy's role in that detention center?
Rich, this precedes me, but I believe, is that what we built?
The D home?
The D home?
No.
You sure?
I know,
I'm not for sure if we did or not. I know we were involved with the original corrections center back in 1992, and then in addition, in 96. We've been around since 1982, but served under the name Toth Irvin up until 2003 or something like that.
Okay. I didn't know if you had, it'd be interesting to see, like, you know, what the scope of work, you know, what was the plan for that building as far as adding on, and, you know, all those documents that supported the build of that?
That would be the architect. We would have served as construction manager's advisor. So we don't design facilities. We take a set of drawings and help the community manage the construction to build it based on those designs.
But RQAW was the lead design?
I'm not for sure. No, I don't know that. So the county doesn't have any as-built too, because there's also where you have it designed, right? And then once you get in there, things never seem to work out how the design is originally designed. And so things change. Mechanical chases move, maybe a structural system or doors move, and then you have at the end of the project, you have an as-built drawing that shows the drawing based on the ending condition as how it was built. So I'm not for sure if anybody has any of those records.
And we would also want to look into the standards because those change over time too.
Yeah.
Well, what gets me, when you guys first came to us, when you talked about a new jail, and you know, your company praised the jail. Am I wrong, guys? We was all there.
Our company praised it.
Yeah, you said it would take $1 million if it was a good building. And then you guys come back 3 or 4 meetings later and tell us, we gotta take that down too.
That may have been
DLC, but I'm not sure.
No, that's these guys right here.
Maybe at some point.
I question you out there.
Yeah. I mean, Dale would have been the person here who said that, so I don't think he said that, but I don't want to.
Just curious, how you go from $1 million, now it's 5 million to 10 to.
You started out at 1.2, I think.
Yeah.
For
1.2 was for the shoulder in this building.
No, it was 1.2 for like the dual facility back 5 or 6 years ago, longer.
We did an estimate for a temporary housing pod to come off of the D-home. It was
a modular constructed pod, which was around 1.2 million, but that.
How many beds was that, do you remember?
75 or 100.
Okay.
These folks have only been working for 2 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't been around for 5 years, so I'm not for sure who else you were working with then.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that's exhausting the list. Any council member or commissioner have anything to add for today?
I think how we move forward, I think the committee is already established to meet.
With Ron and discuss the events that, you know, what we heard tonight, the requests, and then formulate a game plan from there. That'd be not good process.
And present those at the public meeting, since that's coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, if no one else has anything here from the council or the commissioners addressing the general public, we didn't have any public comment on this list, and we're not going to take any due to the amount of time, but there is a commissioners meeting that you can speak at. It's coming Monday at 10 o'clock here. At the county chambers here, and then the council meeting is Wednesday, correct?
Correct. We'll be more than happy to entertain any public comment Wednesday evening, the 17th at the county council meeting.
Okay. So
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yep. So other than that, we'll go ahead, if you want to adjourn your council meeting, then we'll go into, I'm sorry.
Quick question here. I just wanted to, for clarification purposes, are the two bodies in agreement that you are done with ARPA requests as far as presentations and setting a deadline?
I would hope so.
I think we got plenty.
Running out of time.
So we're no longer, just to be clear, we're no longer going to accept any new ARPA
Mr.
requests.
Zadoc gets
Yeah.
a lot of calls.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
just.
no, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You want to go ahead and
We're adjourned.
for the council, and then I'll declare the commissioners are in recess. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.